AI, people are scared of it, people are running away from it, people don't know what to do with it. Are 5 laws of AI at taxi, and those laws are augmentation, which is about how we employ AI to solely be a tool to augment or amplify our creative capabilities. Then we've got like guardianship, is about how we commit to continuously scrutinizing the generated outputs and addressing and rectifying the unintended biases or distortions that it creates. Confidentiality is the third one, where we pledge to protect and be proprietary about the information and make sure that we're refraining from open sourced information that's confidential. Transparency is our fourth tenet here, the fact that we're committed to openness regarding the use of AI. The fifth law is around finalization and making sure we recognize as a collaborator that we're not the creator of the ideas, the assets, and we uphold the value of human craftsmanship. We need to make sure that we're embodying the human ingenuity and the distinctive touch that we can put to things. It's exciting, but if you don't think about it correctly, it's scary.
Packaging design should seduce, inform, and even save the planet. I'm Hernan Braverman, and this is Branderman, the podcast where I talk with experts to uncover what it actually takes to make a positive impact on consumers, the market, and society. Warning: keep this podcast out of the reach of close-minded marketers and designers. Before the interview, let me introduce my design agency.
Brands with purpose. Human, agile, honest brands that leave no one indifferent. Tridimage creates and revitalizes brands to imagine and shape the future. Tridimage, the branding and packaging design agency for bold brands.
Today, I had the pleasure of speaking with Alex Bane, founder and chief business officer at Taxi Studio, an independent design firm with locations in Bristol and London. Alex is at the helm of Taxi's growth and international reputation, with a keen understanding of the intricate challenges brands face across various countries and sectors. In our conversation, Alex delves into how Taxi Studio adapts to the dynamic landscapes of design and technology, emphasizing the importance of blending creativity with strategic foresight. He also shares valuable insights into managing cultural differences in global projects and offers intriguing perspectives on the future of package design, including the potential impact of AI. Today with me, Alex Bane. Each of us is a container of ideas, projects, and dreams. However, we can't read the label when we are inside the jar. Alex, what do you think your label says, or what would you like it to say?
That's a great question, and actually made me think a little bit about who I am and how I approach life. And actually it made me think of some of the funny interactions and conversations I've had specifically with one of my founding members, like Spencer. I think it's because of the way that we've, grown up together and traveled and run a business together. And I think actually my label probably says, caution contains morning person. Because Spencer would always say, bless him, he'd be like, I love you, but just don't talk to me until I've had at least 2 coffees in the morning. That should probably give you an insight to my inner being. And the older I get, the more I try to embrace and accept that and ensure I can make sure I can add value to those around me at home and work. Because I'm a true believer that life is for living. And I always say, don't let it just pass you by. Because every day we get up and we have a choice to enjoy it and add momentum to that positivity, or to be quite frank, be grumpy. And I definitely don't want to do the latter. So definitely, I think it probably says caution contains morning person.
Building a brand is like a journey, which starts with defining where we are and asking ourselves where we want to go. What was the path that led you from studying graphic design in Somerset to founding one of Britain's leading independent brand design consultancies?
Thinking back about the influences I had growing up and the life journey I've had, I was always inquisitive about design and creativity from quite an early age. And my father actually was creative and had a desire to probably go to art college, but he actually was destined to fall into the family business, which was a local village butcher's, which I grew up in.
Mhm.
And growing up in family business is quite a creative environment to be part of, actually, because it teaches you lots of things, how to liaise with people, how to do value exchanges for products and currency, and how to grow deep and meaningful relationships with consumers, but also within the shop that was downstairs below the flat that we lived in was this wonderful butcher shop, but also it was like a delicatessen. And Dad and my mum curated this incredible shelving system full of like very independent and beautiful products. And I was always fascinated by the incredible glass bottles and the jars and the wonderful labels. So I think that was something that was instilled into me from quite an early age. And then when I went to school, I had a bit of a passion for drawing, and that kind of evolved into design itself. And I was very fortunate to have an incredible teacher called Miss Pascoe. Miss Pascoe was famous for wearing one colour a day. Should be turned out like from hat to boot or high heel in one colour. And I always particularly remember like Miss Pascoe's favourite colour of yellow. I was always in awe of Miss Pascoe, but she could see the passion that I had, and she helped me direct that from doing Oxford paper art history through to then giving me the insight and intelligence to be able to go off to college to study like a national diploma and then a high national diploma in design. But back then, you've got to remember in the 80s, as you'll remember, and the influence or the understanding of that as a career was quite slim on the ground. Schools generally didn't really understand it or know where to put you. It was only through self-investigation or having a bit of an ambassador like Mrs. Pascoe that I was able to like discover where I would end up.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I then bumped into my two co-founders, Ryan Wills and Spencer Buck, when we went to Somerset College of Arts and Technology in Taunton back in the early 90s, where again, we had some incredible custodians of guardianship there from a creative point of view. After college, we then came together working in a previous agency to Taxi. There was an opportunity that presented itself where the three of us thought we could really do this ourselves and find incredible clients that believe in you as well, and are able to bring great briefs and opportunities to yourselves. But as you grow a business, then, we've made sure that we continue that passion collectively. And I think, the fact that we've all come from such a fantastic education background and being fostered by those great ambassadors and guardians, that we've always made sure that we try and give back as well. We've been from a very early point in Taxi Studios evolution. We've always worked very hard with leading universities at the time to making sure that we can help curate the next great talent that comes through. Because if we don't do it collectively, then who's going to do that? They need to all learn from us as a collective.
Taxi Studio has been in the industry for a considerable amount of time. How have you seen the design landscape evolve over the years? How has your agency adapted to these changes?
The industry right now is in a state of evolution and flux because of all of the new technology that surrounds it, which makes it a very interesting place. But if I think back and refer back to the grounding that we had, that was a very strong aspect of design in the late 90s and early noughties, for want of a better word. And the great books out there, which people refer to Smile in the Mind, and having the ability to see or understand the transition of a visual idea and how you can engage with the consumer. And I think brand and pet design is very much still about that. Ideas are absolutely key, as well as craftsmanship. Making sure that craftsmanship is the best it can absolutely be. And, often agencies need to find the niche that they want to sit in. But I think we've been very fortunate, and we've created a beautiful hybrid where we're able to elevate design thinking and big brand ideas, but making sure we utilize craft. So it's not one instead of the other, making sure there's a solid evolution of that. But I think as we've evolved as a business, the thing that we've learned specifically is that pack and brand design isn't just about design. It's actually about how we support our clients' commercial vision and the objectives that they are trying to achieve. And then how do we use design to help them solve that? Because there are lots of different things which are challenges for global businesses and brands. They're all looking to strive for efficiencies. Lots of the projects that we do now, they're not pack jobs. They're actually about creating efficiencies at scale for them. And the thing that we're obsessed about at Taxi is making sure that we create unforgettable to all that. Because if people can't remember it, then it's not going to do anybody any good, really.
Al, if you could relive a moment in your life related to your career, what would it be?
I'm going to talk about more about what I've learned in certain situations, and I think it's one of the things I wish I'd learned sooner. As we've evolved our stature and respect and authority in the industry, obviously we got into some incredible rooms with incredibly important client-side contacts and relations and people. I wish I'd known sooner that actually all of the people that we see at such a high level are just people. They breathe, they drink, they sleep, they worry, they have problems. I wish I'd had better self-belief in those early moments of my career. That actually, like when you get asked into a room, not to be fearful of that room, but actually to embrace it and understand that person or that collective of people want you there for a reason, because they think and understand that you have expertise and knowledge in an area that they need support with. Actually, when you get into a room like you and I are talking to each other now, we're just people that are having a chat and trying to understand and get to the end of something. So there you go.
What do you think of the designer you are when you look in the mirror?
It's a good and challenging question. And often now I think it's interesting because I have the heritage and the roots of design traced right through the middle of who I am and where I've come from. Ironically, if I'm honest, I don't really think of myself as a designer anymore because I don't visually pick up the pen or work on the computer as a designer. I'm like in a position where I'm forging deep and meaningful relationships with like key contacts. I'm proud of the fact that I can be empathetic with clients and really understand maybe the conversation we're trying to have so I can help them get to the outcome that they are looking or asking for. Something I'm proud of, and hopefully people would say this about me, is that I have a good ability to hear actually what's being said. And then obviously that translates into design, and I apply a design ethos to that. But I think it's hopefully being a good person, empathetic to hearing and understanding what I'm hearing.
If Taxi Studio were a landscape, what would it be and why?
I think it would be a diverse landscape. A very diverse landscape of a multitude of challenges as well as rewards, to be quite frank. I can picture a landscape where there are big challenges ahead, big mountain ranges, which we need to tackle and get over and above and through. And then you're rewarded with the beauty that's on the other side of them. So then you might have, for instance, a beautiful, lush, tropical environment, or a beach maybe with beautiful calm waves lapping in. But then just beyond that, again, I think you have these challenging environments that you need to get through and pass. And it might be an arid desert or it might be a mountain. More important than just the landscape itself, it's not just the landscape, it's about how you're going to journey through that. Okay. And I think there's often multitude of ways of doing it. One is making sure you enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely key. But as I say to the team here, the thing is with any plan is as soon as you action that plan, there is no plan sometimes. And by that, I mean, like, if I'm looking at how to get to a mountain, I might say to myself, well, we're going to get a plane. I'm going to jump out. I'm going to halo in straight to the top. It's going to be easy. Of course, once you get going, the plane can't get off the ground. So then all of a sudden, you have to traverse your way up slowly and surely, like winding your way around this mountain and dealing with the crevices and the bad weather. But it's remembering that any landscape is a journey.
What influence does your location in Bristol have on your work?
We set Taxi up, the three of us, with a very specific and distinct ambition to set up a design brand agency of the caliber that you would find previously only maybe in, say, London.
Yeah.
But we weren't London boys and we were Somerset boys, and we didn't want to be in London. And we were like, there wasn't anywhere in town that we wanted to work. So specifically, we were like, we want to set up an agency of merit of that magnitude where we want to live. So that kind of gave us the parameters of Bristol to start with. And then as any agency, you always want the best and the greatest talent. Okay. I think that's the key to any business. And I often say to people, I was in a room at Nike a couple of years ago and had a question thrown to me about what's my role in the business. And obviously I spoke about business growth and clients and bits and pieces. But I said, actually, I think, my role and Ryan's role and Spencer's role predominantly is about curating talent. Okay. Because any agency is only as good as the people. And we mustn't ever forget that. And I think in the early years, it was difficult to find good talent and persuade talent to come outside of London and join us down in our little Bristol venture, because maybe people couldn't see it in the same way that we could. So that was challenging to start with, but actually what it did do is made us never settle for second best. And actually, very specifically, I think it made us work even more tenaciously. We wanted it even more. And the fact that passion grew inside us, and whoever did come and join us, who has joined us over 20 years, they've embodied that enthusiasm and passion with us. And I feel, very fortunate about that. Ironically, obviously, these last few years that the world's been through in change, that's allowed a very different thinking to emerge with regards to location. So we have dabbled with and had studios. We've got a studio in London now as well. And we're very fortunate in being able to work globally with all of our clients. We've had teams out in Shanghai just before Christmas, in China. We have teams in Latin America. There's many of us which are back and forth to the US very frequently because, over 60% of our clients reside there. We still manage to make it work with just having this one current central location in Bristol. But that's been also very key to the fact that we've managed to evolve and put a very passionate culture into the business. And people now, as we can all see, that actually flexible, connected working policies allow us to access talent anywhere. We don't always have to have people in the hub, in the main studio here. They can be anywhere. And ironically, it's funny how that evolution now is giving everybody even better access to talent, because we're starting to realize that we can still make things work without potentially always being in a hub together.
As you mentioned, part of your business is international. Can you talk about Taxi Studio's experience in navigating cultural nuances in design?
We're very fortunate, very skilled at actually, but that comes from embodying and understanding, comes from the client. So I'll give you a couple of different examples. So about 10 years ago now, actually, we got asked by global dairy client Friesen Campina if we could help them out and launch new affordable nutrition into Nigeria. So obviously, we're a Western European design agency. They're living a very different life. And you might ask, what do we know about Nigeria? So immediately when that brief came across the table to us, and we know and understand that other very big, very famous named agencies turned that brief down. They didn't want to go because they thought it was too risky. They didn't want to get involved. And I understand that. But actually, Spence and I held our hands firmly high up in the air and we went, we'd love to help you do this because it's a project of merit where we're helping add nutrition in an affordable format to a populace which needs it. It's a very important project from that point of view. But B, we knew it would be very different and challenging. We got on a plane and we flew out to Lagos into Nigeria, and we got escorted round into some of the less fortunate areas of that city and its outer reaching parts. But by being there and immersing ourselves in it, we could understand the culture and observe how consumers were behaving or how other brands appeared in those real parts rather than just doing desk research. The output that we have had and we continue to get is then the best output possible. It's immersing yourselves into those cultures in different territories and parts of the world, not just taking it on surface value of what's pushed across the page from you. And I think in the same conversation, we can talk about there's also the other part of that is when a client brings a brief to you, we often look at that brief as like a beta version of a brief. Is this the best version of the brief? How can we help the client stress test that. And again, I think that's what many of our clients see and enjoy in our partnership, is the fact that we don't always take things on face value, and we're very happy to, as we like to say, work on their behalf, make sure that we can help them optimize, make sure everything is the best version of it possible before we get going on something.
How would you describe an ideal taxi studio client?
First and foremost, they have to live up to our values. We've had 3 values which we founded at startup. They're not just words on a page, they're our way of life, and they continue to foster our culture. So we expect our clients to live fearless. We want to form real relationships with them and play fair. The best clients aren't clients which tell you how to do something. They're the clients that want to work and collaborate with you and ask you how to get to a solution. I think the thing that one of the things we're most proud of, Hanan, is like the length and tenure of the relationships we've had at Taxi Studio. Human empathy has got to be key to that. If you project the right frequency and positivity, and you also have the credentials and the data to back up that we can do a good job, then you're going to attract good and worthy clients, worthy of our time and worthy of their time, to actually help them solve some interesting challenges.
Brands that fail to leave a lasting impression risk fading into obscurity. Our mission is to craft memorable brand expressions that endure in people's minds. Your agency motto is Create Unforgettable. What do you believe sets Taxi Studio work apart from others in your industry?
It's our ability to turn our hand to what is required to answer the brief. We don't have a style. If you look at the work that we've done from Carlsberg to Glencoyne or Celebrations, or like some of the very interesting internal systemic design work that we've done, we're just focused on making sure that we create the best output relative to get the answer that the client needs and to deliver against the commercial requirement. Always executed with absolute craftsmanship, but always making sure that we can make and create that unforgettable moment with the consumer.
As a design agency, why did you decide to obtain a B Corp certification?
Being an independent agency for over 20 years now, we do things a little differently. And we've always chosen to balance our books with profit and the impact on our people and the planet. And B Corp allowed us to certify that, which was a wonderful opportunity. So we're always looking at a triple bottom line commitment, if you like. One thing isn't more important than the other. I could see quite early on, I'm going to say about 5 years ago now, that as B Corp was starting to evolve, that it would very quickly become what I maybe might refer to as a hygiene factor in things for like RFPs for these big global clients, because I could start to see that their interest was generating itself from very early conversations and some of the papers that I was reading. So I remember I came back from a meeting in the Netherlands, and I came back to the board and I said, we need to assert ourselves officially with B Corp to tackle this head on, because this isn't anything that we're not doing now, but actually this will give us the accreditation and elevate us up. Ironically, it's generated so much momentum in the last couple of years. There's a bit of a crescendo right now. You'll see that it's popping up almost weekly on LinkedIn, where people are like, certified. But this isn't, not to be looked at with regards to, oh God, everyone's doing it. This is great. Everyone needs to be doing it. Everyone should be doing this. Everybody needs to care about their people and their profit and the impact that they have on the planet. It also ties back into our methodologies and thinkings and belief. We've always, as I said earlier, when a brief comes in, we always view it as a bit of a beta version of itself often. Like, how can we help them optimize this? What is it they're really trying to get to? Is there a better way for us collectively to understand what we need to do? And there have been opportunities in projects over the last few years before B Corp became a thing. So a couple of those, for instance, would be like some of the work We did with Hermina at Nestle on Yes Brand. Like they came to us with this great opportunity to create a brand for this sustainable product. It was a fruit bar. And we went back and challenged the business and said, the proposition of your product is fantastic. The product itself is great, but currently you're on a plastic flow wrap. Would you consider going into paper? Because we were like, this then epitomizes everything that the brand stands for. And that business back then were like, oh, yes, why would we not do that? Do you know what I mean? So having that ability to think and challenge in a positive way. And again, this is before B Corp, but the work we did sort of 7-8 years ago for Carlsberg when we did the B.1 global rebrand for them, to help them pursue and live actively their proposition of betterment, we helped them create the world's first cradle to grave green ink, because the green ink previously up to this point was the most environmentally friendly ink that gets printed. But we made the world's most environmentally friendly ink actually by getting them to invest in actually living betterment out in all aspects of their business. B Corp certification gives people one of my favorite words, and accountability on both sides of the table. So clients need to be accountable in what they're asking for, and we need to be accountable to be able to push back if we think that things could be changed or different. Our accreditation means that we can rest easy in the fact that everything that we do here is pushing a business forward in the right way, whether it be for how we liaise with people, how we're looking to recruit, how we're trying to put diversity in, how and what we're doing to support others, and more than a reflection of the world that we would all holistically like to be part of.
Al, what is the worst design crime you have ever seen or perhaps committed?
The worst packaging design crime that we'll ever witness collectively is wastage. Brands which are unfortunately still using superfluous packaging, which just isn't required. You can think of bananas in plastic bags, right? There's an easy one that we all see in the supermarket every single day.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why do health and beauty products get packaged twice? Why is a plastic container then wrapped in a cardboard box?
Yeah.
You know, like why? Like, why is that happening? I understand why it may have happened intrinsically to the thought process, like from 10, 15 or 20 years ago. Now, we need to be accountable to help stop that conversation. That's a sign of what I believe is what a good agency partner-client relationship looks like. If somebody asks you to do something and you believe fundamentally it's wrong, then it's our job to help guide their decision-making to something which is better, right? Because I think what's happening is there's lots of stuff which is just happening because that's how things have been done previously. And it's ridiculous. And it takes often somebody to be brave to stand up and say, no, we're not going to do that. It's not how we should be doing things. And it can't continue. So I think the accountability bit comes back into play then. And then the second one, generally, like most packs have ridiculous requirement for legal information or mandatory information. And it's voluminous and it's legible and it's illogical. And I understand that maybe there's a requirement for it to be carried there, but is there not a better way of doing it? Because this also then leans into the first point around generating wastage, right? So maybe on a small product, you can't carry all the information you need, so then you need a bigger outer package, and it's just madness. It's madness feeding madness. Surely, like particularly with the digital revolution, the design is like fostering itself in now, and the growth is exponential. Let's try and tackle some of these things here right now. How can we get this information to consumer, which is, from a legislation point of view, allowed without influencing superfluous wastage? Needs addressing. How do we, maybe this is something as a collective. There's plenty of design leaders like yourself. We could all get together and say, how and what are we going to do about this? Because unless somebody starts dealing with it, it's not going to change, but it needs to.
Sure. I have a proposal for you. Let's play a game. As you are aware, a table tennis table is often found in creative studios. Here's how it works. I'll ask you a series of quick questions, and you'll need to choose between two concepts. Are you ready for Brandersman table tennis?
I am ready.
Okay, so I am a designer or I am a consultant?
Consultant, because consult brings deeper value and understanding to the worlds that our clients operate in.
Close brief or blue sky brief?
Oh, gosh. I'd probably say a closed brief, actually, as in only in the fact that I want to fully understand that the client has clarity around what they want. Now, that closed brief might require a bit of optimization like we've spoken about today, but a blue sky brief rings alarm bells to me because actually it mostly talks about the fact that whoever's bringing that to the table don't actually truly understand what they want. And that rings big alarms in my head.
A creation project or a redesign project?
Oh, you've got me there, Penn. Oh, they're both. We love them both, and I love them both. I'm going to say creation. This is about me rather than taxi per se. I think
Okay.
creation, because it's always wonderful to see something entirely new and different be brought out to the market rather than in a rejuvenation project, which is just as lovely. You're like the custodian of that for a time, which is also a great thing. But I love the excitement that is brought to the table with the creation of something wholly new.
Focus groups or gut feelings?
Oh, these are good questions because one is not without the other, right? I'm going to be cheeky with my reply, okay? So I'm going to say gut, but that's because I'm sure that there would have been good insight in the brief.
Okay.
So that would have included the focus somewhere.
Mass market or premium market?
I'm going to say mass market, actually. We love premium projects here, predominantly things for mass market. And I love the fact that when we do a project which is mass market for all of our global clients, is that a mass market project has huge ability to change positive impact for our client. We get it right. We've been very fortunate in the custodians of some very important and influential billion-dollar brands previously and currently. So again, I love the thrill of making sure that we can do stuff for mass market and huge territories. It's good work.
Conceptualization or execution?
Conceptualization. It's got to be. That's the heart of everything. That's the heart of how we get to create Unforgettable. The execution, I don't mean to downplay it at all, but that is just the visual articulation of the first part. And that can take on many different forms, but actually for what we're passionate about and staying true to our purpose has to be the conceptualization bit, because that's where the big ideas are born. And that's how we can live and breathe, create Unforgettable for our clients.
Label design or bottle design?
We do a lot of label, we do a lot of structural work, and often we find the two are intrinsically linked. And if I was going to be wholly thinking about distinctive assets, then actually there's an ability to make a structural bottle iconic that embodies the brand instantly. So I'm going to buck the trend and maybe upset a few people who say the bottle.
Remote work or face-to-face work?
Face-to-face. Face-to-face has to be face-to-face. We can make remote work, we all have, and it streamlines and brings efficiencies. But this comes back to the question we were talking about earlier, Hanan, about culturally, how do we understand like different territories, how brands live and breathe in these countries, and making sure that we get face-to-face with consumers and the great and wonderful client relationships that we have always does us untold amounts of greatness. I'm a firm believer on making sure we see Anna in the same room with people. And from a selfish point of view, this is the bit that I like about the role that I have now, is that I love forming real relationships with people, and that can only be done in a room, really.
A packaging of another agency that you would have liked to have designed?
Oh, packaging. So I have a piece of packaging at home, actually, which is my favorite piece of packaging ever. And unfortunately, I don't know who did it because it's from circa 1950. It's an oil can and it's called Oily Bird, Ronson's Oily Bird. And the can becomes the bird. The pipette to actually disperse the oil becomes the beak of the bird. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
A collaboration with another creative or agency that you would like to do?
I'd really like to collaborate with the in-house department at Amazon, because I really love and enjoy when we get the ability to influence and flex design on solutions at scale.
Finally, great designers are born or great designers are made?
We all have the ability to learn, but I think if I'm going to be honest with my answer, maybe upset people, it makes me think of, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Great designers are born. I think they have to have something in them which is like this passionate energy, which means they're unrelenting in their quest to be the best version of themselves. And I think that's what the three of us have got as founders, and we've tried to imbue into the team here as we've been fortunate to spend our time with people over 20 years. I think all of these people are born with something. You can see it, it's something that's very deep inside them. And obviously we learn and we get better as we evolve and grow. I think you need that seed of something, which means you're passionate about it. It's not something you stop thinking about. It's something you're excited about. It's something you bore your partner with. It's something you excite your kids about. It's something my wife looks at me and he's still in this supermarket and says, "Why is that in the trolley?" And I'm like, "But it looks great. Look at it. I just want it." So it has to be born with.
Looking ahead, what trends do you anticipate shaping the future of package design, and how is your agency preparing to embrace and leverage these trends in its work?
I think from a visual aesthetic, trends come and go, if I'm going to be honest about it, because it's like the cycle of like fashion. Things come in and things come out, and people latch on to, simplicity but there is always like some key metrics to the design which can't change, like distinctiveness. Things which are bigger than trends, things like AI actually will change and positively affect business, right? And AI is obviously the biggest one right now. And I think AI is causing a backlash in all sorts of different arenas. People are scared of it. People are running away from it. People don't know what to do with it. We've had clients coming to us asking, what is it they should be doing? And they're looking to people like ourselves for help. And I think, again, this is, like where we uphold our mantra of working on behalf of for our clients. We need to sort it out. How are we going to capitalize on it? How are we going to embed it through the agency? How can we be a positive ambassador for this? Otherwise, we'll get left behind, because there will be people that will embrace it. We've been very fortunate in making sure that we've been threading that through our business for a few years now. And specifically, I'm going to quote bits of an article actually for you, which come from one of our creative directors, Stu Tarlis. So Stu is our AI ambassador here. Recently, which he referred to as Darwin 2.0. And he refers to like the seismic change, which is ahead of us with AI, and how many people are scared and running away from it. But if you think about the first daguerreotype photograph process that democratized imagery, and that sounds familiar about how we were worried about it, but then now actually it's become something which has accelerated and been optimized and brings efficiency in all different areas of life. So Stu has been fantastic in making sure the business capitalizes on that. And he's created our 5 laws of AI at Taxi. And those laws are augmentation, which is about how we employ AI to solely be a tool to augment or amplify our creative capabilities, but making sure that we recognize the essence of the creativity lies in the human imagination and our intuition. So AI should only be used as a creative assistant to enhance efficiency. And then we've got like guardianship, where guardianship as a law of AI at Taxi is about how we commit to continuously scrutinizing the generated outputs and addressing and rectifying like the unintended biases or distortions that it creates. Because it does this and it has these hallucinations that we need to be aware of them and make sure we can correct those, making sure they're inclusive or culturally sensitive, or ethically do they apply to what it is the output is supposed to uphold. Confidentiality is the third one, where we pledge to protect and be proprietary about the information and make sure that we're refraining from open sourced information that's confidential. Transparency is our 4th tenet here, and the fact that we're committed to openness regarding the use of AI and making sure that we're not hiding it, and that we're sharing what we're getting and where we're getting it from, and how that constructive feedback loop works with what we're trying to build with clients and is output. And then the fifth law is around finalization and making sure we recognize as a collaborator that we're not the curator of the ideas, the assets, and we uphold the value of human craftsmanship. We need to recognize that it can aid our ideation and our conceptualization, but it shouldn't be the final output. We need to make sure that we're embodying the human ingenuity and the distinctive touch that we can put to things. And that, again, should hopefully increase our value as creative and design and brand agencies rather than undervalue it by accessing and utilizing tools. Again, I think this is one of those things that's a bit like if we all lean in together like B Corp, then we can support each other rather than being selfish about what it is that we know and trying to be a little bit more open source about it. Yeah. It's exciting, but if you don't think about it correctly, it's scary.
Yeah. What is the most important thing on your to-do list for your professional life? What is your next adventure?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think I've always had two jobs. My first job from a professional career point of view has always been taxi studio, making sure that I can help add value and curate a culture here with Spence and Ryan to uphold the values that we believe and do great commercially rewarding, unforgettable work for our clients. That's the first job. But my second job has always been my family, my wife and my two girls. I refer to them as girls, but they're like 27 and 21. They're very young and independent women, helping ensure that my daughters become two strong, independent women, in which they both absolutely are, knocking it out the park of, and supporting my wife these last few years and making myself available to support her own success. She's built her own fresh cut flower business, the Flower Gift, at home on the farm. And I'm incredibly proud of what she's done in such a short time, but via her tenacity and passion and enthusiasm. So those have been my two jobs. Regarding my next creative venture, or maybe a different venture, I don't know. But if I'm honest with you, I don't think I'm finished here yet. There's still lots of exciting opportunities ahead of us here at Taxi Studio. And to be quite frank, I don't think business has felt more exciting than it does right now.
I'll thank you for sharing your insightful ride. In a world where brands risk fading into obscurity, you stand out like a wandering star, a testament to the mission of creating unforgettable brand expressions. Cheers. Gracias.
Thanks, Anan. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
I hope you have enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. You can check the episode notes for all the relevant links. I also invite you to follow me on Instagram and on my website, branderman.design. Follow the podcast in your favorite app so you don't miss the next episode of Branderman, the podcast where we try to uncover how to make a positive impact on consumers, the market, and society through package design.